motherfucker. Fuck is the point in putting an intro on that, idiots? Give me a second. Oh, fuck you. Hey, what's up? Come on. Let's go, motherfucker. Hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I don't know. Um, I don't know, man. I'm trying to get my fucking my Xbox Live account unlocked. Fucking annoying. I have no idea. I have no idea. No idea whatsoever. I have no idea. It's weird. It's like for whatever reason it just decided to start shitting itself. Yep. I mean that's it really. Um yeah, I really can't think of anything else. I think we're done. I'm done. I don't know. I'm finished. What the fuck? No. Oh, this is so stupid. What the fuck?
yours to blame. It's a shame.
Hello.
Hey.
How's it going?
All right. How are you?
I'm better now that I'm talking to you.
Oh, that's good. Let's see.
So why are they making you work late? Projects?
Oh, no. One of our guys is going on PTO.
Okay.
I've got to fill in, but I've got to learn how to fill in. So that's next week, and then the week after I'm filling in.
So are you working late like every Wednesday or like all week for the next 2 weeks?
2 days next week, and then 3 days a week after.
Okay.
But Wednesday of both weeks. So it'll be next Wednesday and Thursday, and then Wednesday through Friday after that.
Okay. Well, maybe we can do it Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, it's fine. Where the fuck is my volume for that? What? Why do you screw with me like that? All right. Give me a mic check.
Hello, hello. Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2 3.
Okay, I hear you fine. You're just really loud. Let me turn you down. Okay, try it again.
Mic check 1 2 1 2
Okay.
1 2 3.
That's better. I'm trying to get my my soundboard.
Anything for my princess.
There it goes.
Well, hi, Dan.
Okay. Are we ready?
Oh, yeah. What are we going to talk about?
E3. That's about it.
I figured. And Hereditary if you want.
Not really.
Did you say something? I didn't hear it.
Let's see. Nope, not really much of a soundtrack on Hereditary. Apparently. Let's see.
What the fuck is wrong with my internet on my computer?
Really loud. It sounds ominous. It's the whole movie. All right, enough of that garbage. Get out of here. Okay, let's lay out some sort of plan here.
So,
What do you want to start with?
I mean, do we want to start right into E3? Or do we want to talk about Hereditary and then jump into E3?
E3 is a big thing.
It is.
We should start with that.
Okay.
Get into Hereditary later. You want to start with the conferences? Do you want to start with the
Yeah, let's do conferences. Why don't we cover conferences and then maybe talk about what we liked at the show? Like, what are the standout things for us this year?
Okay. And Nintendo sucks. Okay. And why Retro Studios is focusing on 5-year-olds. Instead of making Metroid Prime 4 like they should be. But hey, you know, whatever. When you got something that's selling like crazy, why care about common sense? All right, let's get started. Okay. I will count us down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You push a little button and you get hot chocolate. Push a little button and you get some tea. The world's gone mad just pushing little buttons, but
Why don't we talk E3?
You push a little button and
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Don and Justin Push Buttons. I am Don,
And I'm Justin.
and tonight we have a special 1 hour long episode
We never do that.
to talk about E3 and Hereditary, and that's really it. But there's a lot in those two subjects, so we'll just keep it to that. Nice, slim, and so let's make Nanette shut up now. Shut up, go away. So E3. As we're recording this, it is the end of day 2 of the show part. And there's one more day like on the show floor, but then I've been twice, so I know that things close down around 5 o'clock, I believe, on Thursday.
Yeah.
And then it's over. That's it until next year. So we've seen everything there is to see, basically. So we can now kind of, I'm confident we can recap what we saw, what we liked, what we didn't. We're going to start with press conferences. So going through the big three, there are a ton of press conferences now. There's each publisher has their own press conference on top of PC gaming show and the 3 big console manufacturers. So we'll just stick to the main 3 conferences that everyone cares about. What was your favorite of the 3 console makers?
Honestly, Microsoft.
Okay, and I agree with you. I think so. Personally, I didn't even find Microsoft's to be that good. So like, I was just kind of bored by. Here's what I do appreciate. I do appreciate them just cutting out most of the on-stage demos, that kind of stuff now, and all 3 do it now, which I'm appreciative of. I appreciate like the just nonstop game reveals. The problem I guess I had is there was really nothing that I cared about outside of, I don't know. I mean, I like Gears, I like Halo and Forza, but you know, we all knew that was coming, so there were no surprises.
I mean, when it comes to the conferences, I don't think I was surprised by hardly anything on any of them. If I had to say one thing, I was surprised at how many companies that Microsoft bought. That was kind of a.
That's weird. I don't know. So I don't know what to make of that. Honestly, I'll tell you what I do think is kind of sad. The fact that I'm glad it didn't happen. But so Remedy has a new game coming out, right? And they just got done with this like long time publishing deal with Microsoft, and it was like of all the companies that might be snapped up by them at some point, you might think Remedy might be like a first party Microsoft studio, but no, they went with like Ninja Theory over them. And I'm like, man, what do you think of Remedy now? If you're after that long, stint with them with Alan Wake and Quantum Break, and here's Remedy like being they showed their new game in the Sony conference.
It could honestly be, honestly, it could be something where they were already making a game like for every system, like they're like this new one, and they were just kind of like maybe they got the offer and they said no, that's okay, we don't want to do that. We don't know the inner workings of that.
Funny you mentioned that. The developer of what is the developer that just got snapped up by Microsoft? And they're making a multi-platform game. I can't remember it. Anyway, they've been making a multi-platform game, and they were asked, so I assume now Xbox exclusive? And he's like, no. Still on all platforms. Just the next game we make will be
that's the We Happy Few one.
Yeah, that's it. We Happy Few. Yeah. So yeah, something like that I think would still remain multi-platform. But I don't know. I just thought it was funny as all. Like, of all of the now they're invested in first parties. When Remedy was working with them, they wanted nothing to do with first party, like studios or acquisitions or anything like that. It's totally.
I feel like also when you look at the conferences, I just looking at presentation and setup, I just think Microsoft had the most um I guess the most interesting and best setup for their conference,
Mhm.
and it was just paced extremely well. Like
Yeah,
extremely
yeah.
well. I mean, it was just a little bit of talk here, bang, 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 bang. They stopped for a little bit on the Game Pass stuff, and then after that, bang, 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 and that was that. So I mean, I really liked that. And I do think that they kind of made the message clear. While I don't think we're going to see them getting ahead of Sony this gen, it's done, it's over. They're, they are where they are. But I think this was kind of to put out the thing of like, hey, we are taking first party stuff seriously. We've invested in these companies, and basically these companies are going to have stuff to rock the next console off. Is how I'm looking at it.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, it's going to take like 3 or 4 years just to get anything going, really.
Correct.
But and I've seen people complain, well, why only now are you into? Look, stop. Just stop. They're into it now. They're in. It took Phil Spencer some doing. He was just named the head of Xbox. I mean, he was the head of studios, right? Microsoft Game Studios, I think, for years. Well, he was just now given a position where apparently now he is in the room with Satya Nadella, like the actual CEO of Microsoft, and taken as seriously as the Windows division, basically. So for a long time, he did an interview and he said for a long time it was basically like, being the garage band of the company or something. Like they were there, but they didn't have like the same stature as, one of the main pillars like Windows. Now they're taken as seriously as something like Windows to the business strategy of Microsoft. So now that he's done that much, convincing, now he has a little bit more to do. And I mean, it's not a small investment they put into these companies. They bought 4 companies, and they started a new one on their own. So, but it will take some time to get games out of them, and I'm interested to see what Gears, Forza, and Halo games they'll be working on. Sorry, I just had to throw that. Yeah. But anyway. I'm trying to think of what else can they do with.
Well, it's kind of funny that you say that comment because, only because it's like I feel like sometimes Microsoft they seem to get shoehorned into like well they only have Gears and Forza and Halo and all that. And it's like well nobody says that about Nintendo. Well they only have Mario and Metroid and
people say that. Here the difference is that Nintendo comes out with like 1 game in each franchise per generation, so you get like 2 a decade. You get fucking 6 Halo games in. Look, that's a bad example. No, it's not, because I mean we've had ODST and Reach and all that stuff in between the numbered installations in Halo. Forza's every single year. You know what I mean? So people say that stuff because of the frequency of which they come out. It's kind of like Assassin's Creed. So we had one every year for a decade, and then finally break. Now we're back to yearly installations.
But Don, I mean, I'm not into the Forza Horizon or Forza Motorsport one. So for me, I don't get a Forza but every 2 years.
Yeah, I'm not into Forza Motorsport that much anymore. I used to like that in Gran Turismo, but I agree with you. But I mean, I'm just saying it still has the Forza name on it. So people.
Yeah, and what about Gears? Gears is not like they come out every year.
Definitely. It's I don't know, but I think that's the main difference is when you think of like Mario, there has been 1 generation so far in the past 20 years or whatever that has had more than 1 mainline Mario game, and that was the Wii with Mario Galaxy. Other than that, we've only had 1 per console, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a limited thing with Nintendo. But you're right. Nintendo does need to expand, and that's why like when Pikmin came out, that was a big deal because people were excited that's a new IP. Splatoon, when that came out, it's a new IP. But Nintendo didn't I don't think they thought Splatoon would actually become like a pillar, of their consoles, but it blew up. Thankfully, it's a fun series, but still, yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, there are double standards all over the place.
Correct, and and it's interesting because Sony, they have their stuff, and it's like they're doing new and interesting IPs as well. But it's kind of weird because there's also moments where I feel like Sony's just like, oh yeah, we have that one franchise and we're never touching it again. Like, you know what I mean? Or they have franchises that they just disregard. And then it's like, yeah, like, you know, they did Uncharted for a while, and then they did God of War for a while, and then they stopped. Okay, well, they did bring God of War back, but it's like, what else do you think of Sony with? I mean, yeah, you've got, you know, Infamous you had, but now that's no longer happening. You've got this Ghost game, and then you got Last of Us 2. Okay, but there's only been 2 of those.
Right.
But I don't know. Like, I feel like Sony's pushing that hardcore like new IP thing, which is nice. It's good. But I also feel like they leave some of their stuff behind. And like, where was like, not, this is kind of getting into something else here, but like, where was like anything on Medieval that they're supposedly re-releasing? Like, they didn't,
Oh, I don't know.
you know, they didn't touch on anything like that. And I like that Sony is going for that mature, like, hey, we make mature games and stuff, but like they used to make games that were also for like platform lovers and stuff, like you know, what was it? The raccoon. What was that? Sly Cooper.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you know, they had stuff like that, and I feel like they've kind of, other than Knack, they've just been like, nope, we're not touching any of that stuff.
Oh yeah, that was Sucker Punch.
No, I know, but they did exclusively for PlayStation, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's weird because like Sony's kind of, as their brand has matured and gotten older, their output has as well. So you go back to like the PS1, they had like Spyro, you know, like as an exclusive, and Crash Bandicoot. And now, you know, then you go to PS2, and those developers went on to Ratchet and Clank and to Jak and Daxter, right? And then you get on the PS3, and the audience is a little older, and then they move on to, you know, more Ratchet and Clank, but it's a little different. And then they moved on to what was it, Resistance and Uncharted, right? Now,
Yeah,
like, and
I
it,
mean,
now we have The Last of Us, which is just like, you know, like just, it's mind blowingly like well put together, but it's super gory and like just over the top, like hardcore, you know, mature audiences only.
And I get that, like, you're maturing with your audience to an extent, but I mean, if they started off that way, they never would have had the audience to grow with them to begin with. So I still feel like that companies should still sort of have stuff that's for, you know, younger age groups as well as their older fans. And I think I feel like Sony really doesn't do a good job on that, whereas Microsoft is a little bit more keen on doing that stuff. Hey, we have Gears, Halo, and we have, you know, what was it, Super Lucky Tales, and we have the Rare Collection, and see if.
Oh, and that's the difference, I think, between the Rare Collection is one thing, but that's the difference between the conferences, I think, and not so much like the actual consoles, like library, right? Yeah. It's like Microsoft were like, if you look at their first party stuff, it's all just aimed at mature guys. Like that's it, immature guys. It's aimed, you know, it's Gears, Forza, Halo, and it's just, you know, it's very basic, kind of straightforward stuff. But at their conference, they were showing all the third party stuff that's coming out. Now, the main problem there is that a lot of, like 90% of that stuff is multi-platform, you know, and so it's also coming to PlayStation, but Sony, they just don't show that stuff anymore for whatever reason. I don't know. I mean, like, it was just 3 years ago in 2015 where they showed The Last Guardian. They had like a 2-hour conference or something and showed like just a countless number of games. But and this year was weird because they showed literally the 4 main games that they're working on first party wise. Then they had the Resident Evil 2 remake, and they had just a couple of other third party things. Remedy's game, Prey. Just kidding. But, you know, like they had, you know, like this really stripped down kind of presentation compared to Microsoft, especially. And they were just literally trailer. Like there was, I don't think they stopped other than that weird gap and you know, in between the first presentation of The Last of Us 2, where they had to move the crowd to another theater or something.
That was horrible idea.
Stupid. And the live performances, like before the two first games, I was like, why are you doing musical performances? You should bring out Andrew WK is what you should.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and it's even, I even understand like them doing the one for last, like, really, do we need a guy then next blowing on a windpipe, you know, like
I was like expecting them to start showing the game behind him, and no, they showed this like endless loop of this weird whatever it was, and it was like a field or something, right? It was just like grain blowing in a field or something, and it looked like flour basically. And then he played an entire song, and then he just walked off stage, and then they moved on to the game, and I was like, why? Why did you do that? What was the point? And he was a good player, but come on, seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was interesting the differences between the two conferences. Like you can see where each company is right now, kind of in their mindset and their approach to not only this generation but next generation. I think with Microsoft acquiring the studios, obviously they're hoping to gain a foothold in the next generation. They don't stand a snowball's chance in hell because the Xbox isn't a big brand outside of the US. Sorry, it isn't.
Yeah.
But they don't care about that, honestly. They really don't. I mean, they tried getting more traction in Japan like a decade ago, and it didn't work. So they just kind of threw their hands up and were like, screw it. We're just going to focus on the US because they really don't care about any other territories other than the US. And why should they, I guess? But, I mean, they make a ton of money here anyway. But, and that's the funny thing to me is people going like, well, they have a chance at beating Sony next year. In the US, they don't have a chance at beating Sony worldwide. I don't think anyway. I mean, look, the PS3 surpassed the Xbox 360 worldwide, and it got off to the roughest start I've ever seen outside of the.
And I think that happened right near the end, though.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it was just, they were getting clobbered for like 3 years. Anyway, so that was what we thought of the conferences. I didn't really watch Nintendo's.
You didn't miss much. It's just Smash Brothers.
I know, and that's kind of why I don't really like Smash Brothers. And it's interesting. They're not showing anything or even teasing anything that's not releasing in the next 6 to 9 months. And I actually like that approach, but it doesn't win a lot of favor with fans because fans, like everybody's asking, where's Metroid Prime 4? Like, really? They already told you guys they were not talking about anything releasing outside of 2018. And they told us a year ago that this game was at least 2 years away. So you're like, if you do the math, real simple, you shouldn't have expected it.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, Nintendo.
Star Fox racing game looks awful.
Yeah, where was that at? That's the thing though. The Nintendo does their own things as they always done, and they do these directs every like 3 to 4 months. So, while every other company, well, I guess Xbox kind of started doing the Inside Xbox, but while with Sony, you're waiting a long time till their Sony PlayStation event.
Yeah,
you don't get nothing, but Nintendo, you're getting something every 3 to 4 months. So Nintendo, to me, Nintendo gets a little bit of leeway because they're literally announcing new stuff like every 3 to 4 months. Because there's literally almost something new in their directs all the time. Because they're like, "Hey, check this out," and you're like, "What?"
Right. And with the 3DS dead, we don't have to worry about anything except the Switch now and all their directs, because no one should be buying anything new for the 3DS. That's just my 2 cents. Especially, it's so easy to hack these things now. I actually hacked mine like a couple weeks ago. You can play all your games on an SD card. And not worry about inserting separate cards. It's really a novel concept. Anyway, so but it is nice to have kind of like you said, new things to look forward to every few months,
Oh, definitely. I think that keeps people's interest.
Yeah, and showing games that are, and I think all 3 companies now are doing it where they're not showing games, way off in the distance like they used to.
I mean, I yes and no. I think Sony has still got a problem with it because I think that's literally all they have left for PS4 is these games. Because I mean, out of all the games that just not damn well. The 3 new ones or the 3 have a date for gave a date. As a matter of fact, there was a panel for The Last of Us, and they said, somebody asked about the release date, and they said, look, you're going to be disappointed, but we're not going to announce a release date till we're close to releasing, and we're not anywhere close to releasing.
You're going to hate to hear this, but they're never coming out.
Yeah,
that's what they should. They said they're never going to release.
So I mean, and then here's my thing too. Like I don't, we'll never know. But my theory is that Sony has these two post-apocalyptic games that have zombie-like creatures in them. One's about to release in February, and the other one is kind of up in the air. Now, regardless of the status of what Last of Us is in development, do you think they really want to release two of those kind of games right near each other in the same year? And then also, do you really think they want to focus so much on one versus the other? So, for example, people like I saw people seeing the Last of Us trailer, and they're like, "Where are the fucking zombies in this game?" And I'm like, I kind of feel like we're not going to see any zombie stuff till after Days Gone has come out, and Days Gone is like old news, because Sony's, can you imagine Sony's like, yeah, we got two post-apocalyptic games and it's got zombies in them, and yeah. So it's like, I feel like they're doing the best to separate the differences between the two, even though they have very similar themes.
Yeah, I wonder if there's not some kind of story reason that they're not showing them. Like maybe, I don't know. But I think The Last of Us is taking cues from the Walking Dead type of thing, where it's just it's all about the people now, and I'm not even sure that there will be a ton of undead that you're fighting against. But
I think there will be. I think it's too much of a.
But I don't think it's going to be as big of a role as in the first game, because I think it's going to be more about factions of people against you, against everyone else.
I mean, that really was how it was in the first one, but they really did focus a lot on the people aspect of it and the storyline of it.
The fighting against people presents more of a challenge because you're fighting against people instead of these creatures that have video
AI
characteristics. Yeah, well, they're designed to be
fodder,
pretty much. So I don't know. I think if they're wanting to show off the AI, I think they're going to have to stick with people, because you can figure out the patterns and things of these enemies. But if you have like dynamic AI with people, then it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more of like a, I don't know.
They can make some mutations going on. Come on now, let's not downplay it.
I don't think it takes place in the post-apocalyptic future anymore. Pretty sure it's a prequel.
Oh, so what would Tommy have to say about that?
I have no idea, but what's her name is not, like, she looks older, but she's not. She's actually younger. What's her name? Ellie? She's actually younger. It's really weird, and they're doing this really interesting thing, and I don't think people realize that I'm not serious right now. But I don't know, what would Tommy say about this?
No, it's not true. Don't even ask.
Fuck you.
Yeah, damn it, Tommy.
But I just think
in a few minutes, bitch,
it's going to be one of those things where, I don't know. It's going to be pretty much like a rehash, I think, of the first game, just with an older Joel and an older Ellie who has found her sexuality. And
well, now she's just gonna have to make sure she reminds Joel to take his pills.
That's right.
Half Canadian bacon with pineapple, half artichoke with pesto, and light on the cheese.
Delicious.
Don't worry. You guys worry entirely too much about me.
That was Ellie. So, Nintendo is they're dead in the water. They're dead to me. I don't have anything I'm looking forward to, so they won't sell me a Switch until they do. Anyway, what would you say that stood out to you most out of the conferences?
Actually, the thing that I'm taking away from the conferences is that fucking Capcom's back. Like I'm really loving that Capcom is kind of going back to the original.
Oh, that's right, the Mega Man collection.
No, well, you've got Mega Man 11, so they're actually making a new Mega Man that's going to be better than Mighty Number Trash. You've got the remake that looks, and then the Devil May Cry 5 looks just freaking fantastic and fun. Like it just makes me feel like Capcom's finally going back to like some of their IPs, like that. It just reminds me of like PS2 Capcom. Like I half expect like Dino Crisis and Onimusha to come back at some point, like in the next couple of years.
Hopefully, Dino Crisis takes place in space.
Oh, they already had that. didn't they? Oh, don't remind me.
on the Xbox.
Yeah, that was a
I've
horrible.
never, I haven't even booted it up once.
You don't need to.
I think I bought it around Halloween, and I was like, "Oh, this should be fun." No, didn't even bother.
No, and you know, it tried to do the 3D predefined camera angles as well with an action game, and that did not work. Not at all. So, but that's kind of the thing that stood out to me the most. You know, the other one I would say, which doesn't seem like a lot of people are talking about, is the whole Remedy game coming out on multiple consoles, and
Yeah,
you know, them kind of going forward. And another thing that a lot of people haven't, I don't think, are understanding is that it's been said that that game is going to have a kind of like a Metroidvania style of gameplay, like, you know, going through areas and getting, you know, getting abilities and having to unlock different areas. And that's pretty cool because that's something new from Remedy. You haven't really seen that style, but it looks to combine that with their interesting storytelling and their crazy visuals. But the minute the video came on, I was like, that's the new Remedy game. I could tell.
because I was watching it, and then I tweeted Remedy like before it even had said anything about them, and I was like,
Yeah.
"It looks exactly like Quantum Break."
Correct, because they're using their same engine. So,
I mean, the color scheme,
yep.
the just the graphic, you know, you can tell it's the same engine. You can tell it's just it's like an attempt at making money on this thing they invested so much time and effort into over years that just completely bombed on the Xbox One, and that they're upset, and that they want to stick it to Microsoft as hard as they can. And they said, let's go into the Sony conference and let's make it look like we're exclusive to them, and then we'll reveal that we're not, and put Steam pre-order page, and then people will swear at us because they think that we try to pull a fast one. And I'm looking at the trailer here now, and this game's like, it's about like magic and sorcery instead of actually like time warping kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, I've seen so many comparisons with this, but it's like a revival of PsyOps.
Actually, yeah, it kind of does have a feeling like that, you know.
Is what it looks like. And I'm guessing they're going to have a contest where they give away $1 million prize, and they'll go bankrupt right before they're able to give that prize away. So good for them, you know, going out with a bang.
Yep.
Remedy's last game will be
It better not be
Quantum Control Break.
You take that back right now, sir.
So, and look at this. They can't even write. Look, they couldn't even afford to put a T in the title. They had to like do a little thing on the N and a thing on the thing there, and it looks like it's like a half a T. Oh man, this company, man, they're the next Criterion. All right. I mean, even Microsoft didn't want them. Come on, let's be honest. Moving on. What do you think of Beyond Good and Evil 2? Wasn't that cool? You get to help them save money because they can't get their bosses at Ubisoft to pony up the cash to actually develop the fucking game. So they need your help.
I think that's so funny. People that are reacting that way.
It's just,
it's like they're acting like you're handing the keys to the development tools to hey, you need to go out and make this game. It's like, no, they're just asking for fan art to.
No, they want you to do the work for them.
Yeah, they want you to do the work for them, develop it, you know, advertise it, you know.
But it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's such a nice, likable guy. Come on. I mean, I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, don't get me wrong, but he's, you know, I think they kind of said, hey, you know, we'll give you a little bit of, you know, scratch here if you let us use your name to and face. But yeah, he has this company called, what's it called? I don't even know, Hit Record. And it's a crowdsourcing site. It's basically, you know, people collaborate online with different skill sets and things. Like they'll collaborate on short films and on songs and whatever creative project you can think of. And Ubisoft, I guess Michel Ancel from Ubisoft, the creator of Beyond Good and Evil, must have caught wind of this and was like, oh, this is a good idea. I will try it on my own. And so he was like, let's build the whole presentation at E3 around begging for this game to finally be made. No, it had a great trailer. Looked awesome.
Yeah, I'm still torn on it a little bit because, you know, I guess it's a prequel I was hearing, and that's kind of weird.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's kind of odd.
2? No,
Um,
0.
and then the other thing is that I think I remember them saying it was gonna be like some always online like explorative action game or something, and I just don't know enough about it. I think that trailer was awesome. The trailer was fantastic, and the little bits of gameplay I saw was neat, but I need to see more.
I think the problem is they really don't know what it's about either. I think honestly, I mean, the first
Tommy, what's it about, Tommy?
The first time we saw like a tease about this game was 9 years ago in 2009. And that was that trailer that just showed Paige, remember? And it was just really like ambiguous, and people were like, "What is this?" And oh my God, they're actually making it? Well, no, probably not. But they like telling us they are, and they're hopeful that people out there who really like the first game, and let's be honest, like most people that have ever heard of Hit Record, and most people in that fucking trailer video, that pitch video, were barely even born when the first game came out.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that game was almost 15 years ago. It was 15 years ago now, 2003. And calling it 2 and making it a prequel is stupid. And expecting people to care about a game that it wasn't even a blip on the sales charts.
Well, maybe that's why maybe that is why they're making it a prequel, because they know there's not enough people that actually even remember the game.
Don't call it 2 then. It's stupid.
I agree.
Beyond Good and Evil. Just reboot it. And then you can, like the new Halloween movie. Just reboot it and make it a sequel to the original without a 2 at the end, except it's the real 2, and then people watching it will go, wait a minute, so that's called Halloween, and this is called Halloween, but one takes place after the other, and then the other one's getting a sequel, and that's going to be called Halloween 2, but it's really Halloween 3.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, it's all confusing, and it's pissing me off right now. I'm just going to stop. I'm done.
No, where's Sam Fisher, by the way?
Idiots. I have no idea. I'm done. Just fuck you, Google. God damn it. All right, what did we learn tonight, Justin? God, I'm just fucking out of it. I'm done.
Are we done already?
No, I'm just kidding. So I'm getting there though. I'm just telling you. Okay, so what stood out to me the most, other than these stupid, ill-conceived ideas of Beyond Good and Evil 2 and the lack of Splinter Cell, as you were alluding to, it pissed me off too. I was like, oh great, because I heard David Hayter's back as the voice of Snake in Smash Brothers. Isn't that great? And then Michael Ironside's back as the voice of Sam Fisher in the new Splinter. That's right.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. It's a lot like the Retro game, Retro Studios' new game. That awesome Diddy Kong whatever racer, Star Fox racer. Okay.
Yeah.
So what did stand out to me was right.
Oh yeah.
And I doubt it's gonna actually like have this song in it, so I'm probably not gonna be buying it. No fixed camera angles, so it's not a remake like was promised. Like 80% different, so it's not a remake like it was promised. It looks like a over the shoulder camera, like action game, not a horror game as was promised. You fucking idiots that are saying all that stupid shit, just go to hell. I'm tired of this. Tired of these people, these Capcom fans, these Resident Evil purists that are just all about that bullshit fixed camera. The everything I just said. They're complaining. Like I've saw so many people literally say, "Oh wow, this looks really good. It looks great graphics, amazing looking combat. The horror's back. Fixed camera angles, so hard pass for me." Like, wait a minute, what? You literally just praised like everything, and then just said, "No, I'm not buying no fixed camera angles." You know how antiquated fixed camera angles are? Do you know why they did that back in the day? I don't even think people that played those games understand why the camera angles the way they were. They were that way because you couldn't do 3D. You couldn't make a fully three-dimensional game on the PlayStation in the vein of Resident Evil. So what they had to do was they had to pre-render these backgrounds basically hand paint these backgrounds, and then they could put these 3D characters on top of them, and that was it. And it gave the impression that it was a 3D space. But now technology allows us to do fully realized three-dimensional everything. And so why wouldn't you? I don't understand what the whole problem is. Now, would it be nice? Sure, throw in the option for fixed camera angles, but is that really a deal breaker? I think so. I'm not buying it.
I mean, so you know, I'm a fan from the day one. I've been playing the franchise forever since it came out, and you know, like you said, it was like a graphical limitation thing, and then also, you know, there was some of the aspects there that, for tension wise, you couldn't see what was around the corner.
Yeah, it was terrible. I hate it.
Yeah. But the thing is so I get that the remake redid it and kind of, you know, they kind of stuck to what it did. But as far as this one, I understand like people being like, well, that kind of is a bummer. But at the same time, like there's so much more graphical effects and style they can do with an over-the-shoulder camera. And think about this. Like, to me, one thing that makes games extremely scary is flashlight mechanics and darkness. You can't do that in fixed camera angles. You wouldn't be able to see shit. Period. Sure. Because you're like, I got a flashlight, but I can't see down the hallway because I can't see past this camera angle because it's only showing me the corner.
You cannot look at the footage of this game. First of all, it looks phenomenal. It really does. It's awesome. You cannot look at the footage of the gameplay of this game and tell me it does not look tense. It looks absolutely intense as hell, and it looks, I mean, scary. Honestly, it looks like it has not jump scares, but like, oh shit, this guy isn't going down after like 3 headshots. You know, it's a regular zombie, and you have like 20 bullets total.
Yeah,
you know,
so they're still keeping that gameplay of like you're not going to be Rambo like in Resident Evil 5 or 6,
right?
And just blowing through people. You're going to have to manage your stuff.
Saying that it is. See people go, oh wow, Resident Evil 6 2. What are you watching? Are you kidding me? It looks like Resident Evil 7 in third person, if anything.
Correct. And so, I mean, the only thing that I have to say now, though, about the franchise in general is I have no fucking clue what they're going to do with it, because they've got like 3 different versions of their games now. They've got their over-the-shoulder action games. They've got their over-the-shoulder horror game now, and then they have their first-person horror. So I'm like, what's Resident Evil 8 going to do? You know what I mean?
Fixed camera angles. Fixed camera angles and please everyone. I mean, I think that's a cool thing, though. But honestly, personally, I think it's cool that it has games with first, you know, not that we haven't had first person Resident Evil before. It's just, you know, Outbreak was a different thing. But, you know, we have first person horror in Resident Evil. We have third person action and horror in Resident Evil. And then we have fixed camera angles as an option as well. And the series has done all of them, and it's done all of them well. And I think it's cool that they can kind of pick and choose whatever they want to do, and maybe even mix it up a little bit. You know, there was a mod that came out. It wasn't even a mod. They patched it into the Evil Within 2, a first-person mode. And so, I mean, there's no limitation, really. You could mix it up. You could do all of one, all of the other, whatever. But, you know, I think it's cool that the series doesn't limit itself to just one type of gameplay. I'm personally hoping Resident Evil 8 goes back to on rails and Dark Side Chronicles 3.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I am really curious though to know if they continue to do Resident Evil 8 in first person still again, or they decide to go this route of remake. And I wonder how the sales will affect that, because this is using the same engine. So my guess is that they can easily probably swap between the two, and then if anything, they go third person, they have to work on animations and stuff with the character models and maybe change the camera design. But I'm really curious if the sales of our Resident Evil remake will have any impact on Resident Evil 8's development.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil 3 remake. So that's what that'll be called. It'll be Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil 3 remake. It'll just be R3 make. Is what it'll be. So Resident Evil 8 remake, and then Resident Evil 4 will get remade, and all it'll turn out to be is that fan high res texture pack that's coming out next. It's coming out next. I wanted to work that in because it's coming out July 13th.
Finally,
out of date. I know. So these guys have been working on this thing for like 4 years now, I think, at least maybe, and. yeah, that's I'm looking forward to that as much as anything else in Resident Evil right now because I love 4 so much, but I haven't played 4 in probably a couple of years now. It's weird. I think I have it installed actually, but I just don't play it. It's just stupid. Anyway, these guys. So can I talk a little bit about that really quick? Because it's kind of so. Resident Evil 4 is highly regarded, obviously one of the best games ever made. It's one of my favorite games ever. I've played it over 24 times, and each playthrough takes me because I walk through and I get like every bit of treasure. I break every box with the knife. I kill every enemy. So every playthrough takes me over 10 hours, and I've played it over 24 times. So what is that? 10 days of my life. So I'm gonna regret that when I'm like,
you break it down that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I really need to be pickier with my games.
But these two guys, what are their names? I can't. I hate that I can't. I know one of them's name is Chris. I can't remember the other guy's name. But anyway, they have worked their asses off for like 4 years or so. I can't even remember how long, whenever they started. But they basically made a pledge. They set out on a mission to retexture the entire game because that's the one thing that really stands out in Resident Evil 4 is the texture work. It's so low res because it had to fit on two GameCube discs back in the day. And so they have gone to the actual places in Spain because they're at least one of them's from Spain. But they also went around Europe. I think it was Chris that went around Europe and found the actual places that the Capcom artists took pictures of and used as textures in Resident Evil 4. And he went to these places and took his own much higher quality pictures of the same places and replaced the original textures in Resident Evil 4 with his own work. And then whenever they couldn't find the original textures, they did everything they could to recreate them to look identical, just in much higher quality. So like every single, I'm absolutely certain it's every single texture in the game has been replaced, which is insane. Because like I said, I'm pretty quick through the game, and it takes me like upwards of 10 hours to finish it. It's a massive game. And they're finally releasing the mod on PC on July 13th. I think it's a Friday the 13th, which is cool. But, God, I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, my joke initially was that the remastered version of 4 will just be their texture pack on vanilla Resident Evil 4. and that Capcom will probably end up just stealing it from them and being like, hey, thanks for your hard work. But, really yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It'll be really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Then they can get to work on 5.
And honestly, I think that I really think if what we've seen of 2 is an indication so far, it's going to be one of the best Resident Evil games ever made. Like 2 itself is like probably one of my favorites, if not favorite games ever too. So I think it's just gonna trump it. So
right. I think so.
Did you see the video of like? Have you seen like the gifs of like the
the gore?
Yeah, like the gore, like the like impact effects on the bodies and the way you can shoot off like arms and legs. And I was just wow.
Yep, it looks nuts. It really does. It looks very much like a bastardization of the original. No fixed camera angles. No buy. Sorry. People are fucking nuts. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Well, people don't like change, and they're stingy and they're stubborn, and they just don't. They're
just trolls, and they're just lying.
That too.
They're not going to buy the game because of a camera angle. Come on, and I just hate when they like online. Oh, a hard pass for me. This is stupid. Somebody got banned on Reset Era. Because he said, like, immediately after the trailer was revealed, he goes, wow, goddamn Resident Evil 6 2, unbelievable. I can't believe this is stupid shit. What the fuck is wrong with you, Capcom? And then people were like, dude, calm down. And then in another thread, it was like, so what do you really think about Resident Evil 2? And then he comes in, and everybody, like, half the page down is like, oh, it looks amazing. Can't believe how good it looks. And then he goes, looks like a fucking piece of shit.
It's, it's funny because the reason people don't like Resident Evil 5 or 6 for the most part is because it's not a horror game anymore. It's become a full-blown,
Yeah.
action Michael Bay type of
Right.
game. Because honestly, if you take the horror thing out, as action games, they're pretty cool because especially 6, you can do a lot of crazy moves and it's kind of intense and it's like this fun, crazy, wild roller coaster ride of a game, even though a lot of weird decision design points and it's like what were they thinking with that, but regardless it's still a pretty fun game in all respects. But as a Resident Evil game, that's was the big thing, like this isn't doing horror like we want, and it's like what are you doing? So 2 is showing that they're going for that scary vibe, they were going for that survival horror, they're going for that limited ammunition feel. And so camera angle or not, fuck you if you think this game is going to be stupid because it doesn't have static camera angles. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And this is coming from a Resident Evil lifetime fan. Because if you don't support this game and you say you're a fan, bullshit. I'm sorry, I just feeling really strong on this one.
No, it's true. I mean, you can't expect them to go back to fixed camera angles exclusively because how limited will that audience be? How many people are going to buy that game that have never played a Resident Evil game before were born after the year 2000? I doubt it.
I can already tell you what some people are going to use in that defense. Well, the re-release of the remake did really well, and Resident Evil 1 and 0
really well, relatively speaking, because there were like 1 million plus fans already existing that had already played those old games. But Capcom's a business first and foremost, and they're trying to get as many people as possible to buy this game. And the fact remains, I hate saying it, but it's true. Resident Evil, I think it was 6, is the best selling of all the games, is it not?
Yes, I'm pretty sure it was either 5 or 6.
Right, that was straight up action and over the shoulder, and everything that purists hate about the newish Resident Evils. But the fact remains that was the most appealing to the widest audience.
Correct, and it even sold more than 7.
Yeah, and so I mean the numbers don't lie. Unfortunately, those games sell the best, and they're kind of just doing a favor to us by going back to horror, to be perfectly honest with you.
Oh, honestly, you're right. And you know what I've even heard from people?
More money.
I've heard people didn't play 7 because they were too scared.
Yeah, I could see that. Now here is the other thing, I guess, to boost the, I don't know, maybe if it's appeal, whatever, but horror games are extremely streamable. So because of reactions, obviously. So there's that, the fact that people will stream themselves playing what the fuck ever that is, like I don't even, was it Daylight or whatever the hell it was, where you're running and hiding from stuff, and then Resident Evil 7 kind of, I think they saw that and they were like, oh shit, we could do that. But those games, horror games specifically, especially really scary ones, have a streamable appeal, which is actually really good because that's free marketing, and that's absolutely in tune with this generation. Like that's something that they love to watch, is other people get scared. So does it lead to sales? I'm not sure, but it could make the game really popular if it's really scary and people actually think it's really intense because they'll be streaming it, and it could very well be this game gets like 10 million views on Twitch and, sells like, 1.5 million copies or something.
Yeah.
So
and before we switch gears real quick, I do want to say one thing that was pointed out in one of the developer interviews or streams that they didn't really showcase on the videos, is they did say there was going to be a mechanic in there to board up windows.
Really?
And I was like, wow, because they were saying what is one of the first things that people do in a zombie situation when they're trying to get into a house or get somewhere.
Yeah, cool.
They board themselves up. They board things up to keep them from coming in. So
cool. So they're releasing zombie mode, and they're gonna have like a season pass and stuff, I guess.
I haven't even heard that.
I mean, all you're gonna have to do, I assume, is just like walk up to the window and then hold X.
Oh, that's one of your jokes. Haha, I get it.
Ching, ching, and then so that's cool. That's good to know. It's just multiplayer exclusive. I didn't realize that. So thanks for totally ruining this entire game for everyone.
How could you do this to me?
I mean, it was easy.
You're right. It tastes good.
cannot tell you. It's confidential.
Oh, come on. Why not?
No, I can't. Anyway, how is your sex life?
That's a little personal, man.
Enough. All right. What else do you want to talk about regarding E3?
I mean,
Next
overall,
coming out.
what's that?
When's the next Xbox coming out?
Well, they're saying 2020.
You think they're going to be first?
I do, and they also said their family of Xboxes. So I have a theory on what's going to happen here.
Yeah, they're going to have a Steam Link streaming like box.
Well, I don't.
The actual console.
So what I'm thinking is, this gen has been the whole like, hey, we have these, we got the systems, and then later both companies like, well, guess what? We got more powerful systems now, right?
Yep.
So hear me out. What if, because one of the main things with consoles a lot of people come up with is there's two things I hear a lot when it comes to consoles. It's not powerful enough, or I don't want to pay that much for it.
Right.
So instead of making iterative consoles as the generation goes on, as far as stat wise, what if you release 2 or 3 different types that are guaranteed to play every game that comes out on your system, but you have to know going in, if you buy the cheapest console, you're not going to get the most fancy graphics, 60 frames, whatever. I think that'd be kind of an interesting take on it, because then you're basically giving everyone a premium of, well, how much do you want to spend, and how much is the better graphics, 60 frames, 4K worth it to you? And if you're like, I don't care, then you buy the base system that'll still play all the games.
I don't know. I think it's an approach. I mean, that's kind of just what they're doing now, right?
Well, correct, absolutely. Except instead, you'll do it at launch.
Right.
That's the idea.
It'll be an iteration on what's happening now, and I think, honestly, they're just going to keep the Xbox One S around for a little while longer, and make that like the they're basically going to start targeting the X, I think, making sure that it's downgraded and it still runs on the S, but it won't be the ideal way to play games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they're going to position the S, and I could see it being like $150, because it's already like $250 or $200 even, I think.
Yeah.
I could see them like really slashing the price on the S. Maybe even go down $100 at some point, but make it super cheap, easy entry level. It plays everything. Doesn't play it well, but it plays everything. And then you have the X, which would be like the mid tier and like the base. And then you would have this new X, whatever you would call it. I have no idea at this point, the Y. But that would be like the new top of the line kind of thing. And I just take like one console. I know they said consoles, but I can't see them like going with a new architecture and cutting off backward compatibility and all this stuff after all this trouble they went through of like.
Correct.
The PC is now an Xbox. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Well, if they, I mean, I guess I see what you're saying there, and that could work too. But I think the key thing is going to be they're going to try to have options or choices for people, and to have preference on what they want, and going forward. And I really think it's kind of weird. Maybe you got this feeling, maybe you didn't, but I feel like Microsoft's tired of being in the position they're in. They're going pro consumer so much. They're pushing, power, and they're trying, and the thing they were lacking is first party. So this year they're like, look, we got these companies now, and they're going to push these guys all towards the launch of their next system for strong first party content. I feel like they're really trying to take the reins back. And then meanwhile, I feel like Sony's kind of like, they're slacking a bit. They're not allowing crossplay on Fortnite. They're not, they're not letting you change your PSN handle. Their PSN store sucks ass still to this day with the connectivity. Like, I just feel like they're not doing as much as they were to start, because now they're on top. The only thing they've got going for them really is we have kick-ass first party games.
You must be You must be crazy. I can't drink this.
Yeah, so maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid there, but I just feel like that's happening, and it's like, I feel like it's almost like a reverse. Like, honestly, 360 was rocking, and they came out, and they came out like, yeah, we're gonna do all these really interesting things, and they just totally biffed it. And then meanwhile, Sony's like, well, now we're gonna ramp up, and Sony was like kicking butt and being pro consumer, and now it feels like they're kind of like, we're at the top of our game, we don't have to do shit.
Oh, hi, Johnny. I didn't know it was you.
Well, I don't think you're wrong. I think it'll be interesting to see what Sony does next generation because, I mean, they were first. Well, they were only first with a Pro, but I'm wondering if they'll be first next generation as well, or because I mean they're just keeping quiet for now. You know, I think with Microsoft we have a good idea. It's going to be 2020, not only because of just common sense things that like Digital Foundry have pointed out as far as like architecture and technology available and things like that, but also because Microsoft just have a bunch of they have a really leaky boat. So a lot of people just like to throw them under the bus and just talk willy-nilly about what they're hearing from the company, as opposed to Sony, which I think honestly that has to do a lot with they're US based and people here know people there, and it's their personal friends, that kind of thing. Whereas Sony, everything's made, all the decisions are made in Japan, and so it's a bigger bridge to gap basically.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think so. It's easier to leak stuff from Microsoft, obviously, but I think I think they would like to be first again, but I think they also don't want to give up the power edge. I don't think they want to, they don't want to be like in the Xbox One's position at the beginning of this generation, at the start of next generation. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see them just kind of come out in 2020 and they'll actually be like kind of on even footing this time.
Yeah, and that'll be I guess, and then we'll truly see what happens with the first party with Microsoft and kind of go from there. But I mean, overall though, with E3 this year, I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was one of the better ones, except I just didn't get many surprises this year. Again, I just feel like most of the stuff I knew about, like the biggest surprise was the remake, and we knew it was coming at some point, and we knew it was being developed. What?
I think it's just because everything leaked like a week out.
Well, yeah, I mean, so like, I guess, yeah, if I didn't know about Just Cause 4 leaking, that would have been kind of interesting because that's crazy. There's another one already. I was kind of like, what, already? So, yeah, and then there's also companies that are announcing their games earlier, like when it got announced months ago that Shadow of the Tomb Raider was coming, and it was kind of like, oh, I didn't expect that this year. So, like I feel like the surprises are kind of getting a little bit less. But overall, I just think this E3 was pretty cool. I mean, while the conferences could have been better in some regards, I really enjoyed them for the most part, except for EA's. And I mean, a lot of the stuff I've seen, I've enjoyed, and I think it looks cool. But here's another thing I've noticed. I've noticed a lot of shared world and online experience and games as a service talk.
I know.
Which I'm not a big fan of.
I'm not either. And I think I'm not a big fan of it because I just don't think they pull it off well a lot of cases. And then a lot of it's just not for me. But one of the funny things I thought was I saw people going like, well, I thought Microsoft had a solid showing, but they didn't have that big holiday game. What is the big holiday game other than Forza Horizon 4? Like that's literally the only big thing they have this year. And then someone pointed out, well, at the end of last year, as recently as like 5 months ago, they had what they thought was like the game this holiday season exclusive to their console. And all of a sudden, Fortnite came around.
Yep.
Just knocked it down a peg. And yeah, so this exclusive stuff that they have for PUBG is like nobody cares about it now. It's so funny because it just came out of nowhere that, literally 5-6 months ago, if things had trended the way that they were expecting it to, people would have seen that and been like, "Oh my god, new stuff for PUBG!" And then now it's like, "Oh, who gives a shit?"
It's kind of ironic and sad because at the same time, if it wasn't for PUBG, Fortnite never would have made that mode, basically copying them, and it would have never taken off. But see, Fortnite had the advantage of being more catered for all ages and also being on multiple consoles.
It's free to play. That was the main,
that too, free to play.
It's free to play. We talked about this like months ago. Remember that? And I said, they're both similar, they're both fun, but one's free, and that's it. That's all I care about. One is free. By the way, it's such bullshit because they're brought, right? Fortnite's on Switch now, I think, right? Anyway, but if you have, because of this crossplay nonsense that Sony's pulling, if you've ever signed in to a Fortnite account on a PlayStation 4, you cannot log into that same account on another platform, at least not right now, because Sony like blocks your account. They lock it onto the PlayStation 4. So anyway, they're
getting a lot of shit for that too, like a lot, like even from Sony people, and I'm like, yeah, they need to know.
Yeah, that's just absolute bollocks. I hate that they are so adamant against cross-platform play. This is the same company, literally like last generation, 6-7 years ago, we had Steam on it. We had Steam on the PlayStation 3, and that had cross-platform play with Windows. You know, it was just silly. Just silliness. Anyway. All right. Are we done with E3? You want to talk about anything else?
I mean, I other than that, I think, I mean, that's kind of the things that stuck out to me this year. I mean, of course, there's so much stuff we could talk about, but those are the things I'm really excited for.
Let's talk about the new Smash. It looks awesome. Kidding, I don't want to talk about
I will say though, you know what? I'm tired of fucking hearing about Death Stranding. I don't know what it is still. I know it just has Konami's name or Kojima's name on it, so everybody just wants to fucking jerk them off. I mean, I'm interested in it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm interested to know what this game is and how it is. Just get some vague shit that we keep getting every third year now. Every year now. So it's like the third year we're going. I'm just tired of it. Like, I just want to see it when it's like, hey, it's coming out in 6 months, and I can know what the hell the game is, like actual gameplay is about. Because as far as I could tell from the trailer we just saw this weekend, it's the freaking huge walking simulator, which I know it's probably not, but
it's just weird to be weird, and that's Kojima. I'm not a big on Kojima's games, but it is interesting because I have a couple questions. One of which is after seeing that trailer.
When is the baby due?
And then
There is no baby.
What?
So I don't know. The whole baby thing is just fucking weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
Really
And
So
I'm okay with weird. I'd like to know what kind of game I'm getting, and I'm not. And it's, you know, I get some people will just be patient. Dude, it's been 3 fucking years. Like for example, like let's just take this. Yes, okay, so maybe it's been 10 years since we've had a Kingdom Hearts, like a third Kingdom Hearts. But guess what? I knew what it was going to be, how it was going to play. I knew exactly, like, I know what to expect from a Kingdom Hearts game. I don't know what the hell to expect from Death
I know
Stranding.
more about Metroid Prime 4 than I do about Death Stranding.
Yeah, probably. That sounds about accurate.
And I have not seen anything more than a logo from Metroid Prime 4. So that's all we need to say.
Anyway, though, I'm excited for it, but I just am tired of hearing about it because it's like, show me something substantial. Right now, it's all just fluff. It's just fucking masturbatory fluff.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Man, I think this might be one of the angriest elements I've ever had on the podcast.
No, well, it's for good reason. Death Stranding's just kind of.
Well, I was more referring to the Resident Evil people bitching, but I mean, yeah,
that's fine.
Overall, I think I've actually come out with a little more spunk this episode. Yeah, you know, it's okay to get a little passionate there sometimes.
Fix camera angles. Shut up.
Oh my gosh, they are pissed.
So, our next topic is Hereditary.
Hereditary.
Herdietary.
Herdietary.
So this movie.
So
this is basically the entire movie in musical form. Hang on a second. Literally just, I mean, it never changes. This is it. This is every track. There it is. Literally like an hour and a half of just this.
Synthesizer.
It just slowly builds.
So
keeps going.
I saw you tweet about this movie, and I don't know if you saw my tweet to you about it.
Okay. So this movie is, so the trailer doesn't really give away the big, like, you know, the big reason this family's falling apart, which is good. I was kind of taken by surprise by that, but Yeah. What do you want to start with this thing? So
Okay.
it's about a family
Yeah.
who look nothing alike.
Yeah.
A lot of questions.
It's about a family who's going through grief from a recently a deceased mother.
Right.
And the wife is trying to keep it together.
Grandma dies.
Yeah. With her her husband and the 2 kids.
A lot like Coco, which I'll actually explain in a minute.
Like what?
Like Pixar's Coco.
Oh yeah.
I'll explain more in a minute why.
So that's kind of the movie in a nutshell, and then just weird things kind of start happening, and I will say I really liked
nothing weird happens for like an hour.
Yeah.
Which is one of the problems I had with it.
Yeah. Well, so I think what it is this movie is like it's a half a drama, half a scary movie, and
yeah,
somebody did say it kind of travels the fine line of being part art house horror and part like typical standard horror, and I can see that absolutely. And while you're right, nothing like really crazy happens. There's some oddness, a weird feeling, some weird tension at the start and throughout the first hour or so. But I liked it. I really liked that setup, and I liked the uneasiness feeling of it, and the just kind of creepy vibe, and like kind of questioning what's going on. I don't want to get too much into spoilers here, but I will say that I dug most of the movie, but I'll say like the last bit of the movie, I kind of guessed where they were going, like the last 30 minutes, and I was a bit disappointed because it was kind of like, okay, we've seen this before.
There's no climax. There's literally no climax, and there's
correct.
no. I just didn't care, and the main problem I had with it was that it's not even a twist. It's just like it's a lazy plot device. It just everything's done ever.
Correct.
It just suddenly turns into the most generic, like, here's the thing. The stuff with mom, the stuff with the family, the stuff with, what's her name? Whatever the hell her, Toni Collette.
Toni Collette.
She's incredible. She's a great actress. Dad's a little poorly cast. I didn't like him. Son is, holy shit, it's one of the most annoying characters I've seen in years. But, the movie about the family, the dynamic of them like disintegrating and just falling apart as a family, I thought was fantastic. I thought it was great. Like really well done, really well acted, really well paced, just like really that foreboding, like just sense of dread throughout the entire movie.
Yes.
Just permeated the entire thing. Everyone in the theater was just dead. It was as quiet as A Quiet Place. Like throughout most of the film, because there's a lot of quiet moments in this movie too, but then this thing happens, and I was like, why? Where did that even come from? And then they tried to literally make the title make sense. Like, I think it almost feels like that was the entire point of the last third of the movie was like, oh, shit, we better make it make sense. We better make Hereditary mean something.
And, that being said, there's a scene about, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
Completely shocking. Like I was not prepared for it. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And not only was the scene shocking, but when they showed the aftermath, I was like, holy fuck. Yeah. Like that's something that
I was like, whoa.
Like that's something that's seared into my brain. Like that's something I'll remember. So the movie gets props for doing things that are a bit different. And as far as I'll guarantee you the reason this movie got such critical acclaim wasn't because of the story. It was because of the acting and the way that Toni Collette did her performance and the seriousness of it and just how well she did it. And because she basically led this movie. This was her movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's why. And also the cinematography and the way it was shot was very well done. And it was a very tense and, there was just very creepy elements, and it wasn't about jump scares, which thank God. I love that. I love when
it's not a horror. It's really not a horror movie like people think of horror movies. It's a horror movie in like a realistic sense, like 70% of the way, and then it tries to turn into a much more traditional ghost and poltergeist type movie.
And when that happened, I was kind of like,
at that point.
Well, I was kind of like, okay, that's fine. But then the last third, I just really didn't like the ending, and not only that, it's because we without spoiling, we've seen this kind of story a bunch. We've seen this kind of ending a bunch, and I loved how they just had to do the whole like exposition thing. Like, if you didn't know what was going on, well, let us explain it to you. Like right at the end of the movie too.
No, I know. It was very. It was just. I hate using the word lazy, but it felt very contrived, like very typical.
And the other thing I really did not like, and this is a little spoiler, so I'm not exactly explaining what happened, but I'm kind of giving you an idea of something. When they, Toni Collette is basically the main character in this movie, and at a certain point, she disappears, and then you see her again, and to me, they fucking just threw her away like trash, like her character away. I was so disappointed.
I was literally about to say. So Toni Collette she is this movie. She carries the movie on her shoulders. Like, she is the thing to watch here. She makes it interesting. She makes it engaging. Her performance is outstanding. And the last 10 minutes, at least, probably more, don't even have her in it. They completely throw her away and waste the unbelievable performance she's giving in favor of this very, like, what I assume they thought was a clever twist, a clever way of having things play out. And it pissed me off, because I was like, really? I wanted closure, first of all, closure. And second, it was just, it completely missed a huge opportunity to have an unbelievable payoff with her.
Correct. Oh, absolutely.
All this stuff, especially when they check her out of the story, basically, is when, like, everything just came to a head, and everything kind of like, culminated in that moment, and then for nothing. You're like,
and there's no, you get so invested in this character that she plays, you get no payoff with her. You get, there's no redeeming moment. There's no like aha moment with her. There's really no payoff at all with her. She becomes a trope, basically. And you're left with a very, just to me, poor ending. And I mean, I swear this movie was like the reverse. I don't know if I'd say it's a reverse of a roller coaster, but it was like, it started off to me super strong, and it was like going, and then it got, okay, it's kind of middling, and then the end just fucking dropped off a cliff. And I'm shocked that not more people are talking about it like this, because I went into the movie with okay expectations. I was a little apprehensive from all the critical praise, and I still really enjoyed the movie a lot. Like, again, for the reasons with Tony and the cinematography and just the sense of unease. There's like weird stuff in the movie where you just see somebody like really smiling weirdly, and it's just creepy, like unsettling. Like, if somebody was looking at me in real life like that, I'd be terrified. Like, what's wrong with you? So they play on that stuff really freaking well in this movie. But the story, where it goes, and the ending is it's just poor. It's just lazy. It's just the kind of, so here's a good example in my way to compare it. They always say that the best thing that you can't see, or the best the things that scare you the most, are the things you don't see, and it's the things your brain can kind of interpret or maybe create. And this movie does that so well, because did I see something there, or what's in the darkness? They fucking throw that right out the window at the end. It's kind of like, well, this is what this is, and this is what's happening, and this is, they explain everything for the most part, and it takes all the mystery from the last hour and 45 minutes away from you. And
I'll tell you this too, like the way that they did it, especially with Toni Collette at the end there, it looks really stupid. So the problem that I had in my theater was the kids behind me, because there were kids there, like not 10-year-olds, but like 14, 15-year-olds. They started laughing like really loudly at the end, because it looks ridiculous what she's doing. And it totally, absolutely sapped all tension from the atmosphere at that point. Because
and so,
it looked ridiculous.
That brings up kind of another issue I have, and it kind of goes with this whole, like, it starts off really strong. the movie is kind of extremely grounded in reality at the start, and having a little bit of supernatural elements, which I don't want to talk too much about, but having a little bit of things and nods to that stuff is fine. But the stuff that happens in this movie, it just happens so fast, and at the end there's no time for your brain to like process what's happening or even really think that okay, this is normal for this movie, because it's almost like the movie fucking just switches gears, and it's like all of a sudden you're seeing these weird things, and you're just like, that doesn't seem realistic. And I'm not saying movies need to be realistic, but you're going from a movie that felt very grounded with drama and just some kind of spooky overtones to then going to completely weird shit flying through the air and things floating, and just it just does like a 180 so quick. And it's disappointing, because I think this movie, if they didn't go for the typical storyline they did, and they came up with an actual original idea to maybe to explain what this family's going through, I think it just would have been so much better. It would have
what I wanted?
Stand it out more.
I thought it would have been to the movie's benefit if it had taken more of like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining kind of approach.
Absolutely.
Where you don't have this crazy supernatural, like overtly supernatural shit happening. It's more of like in her head kind of stuff.
What is it?
Like outright, straight fucking wizardry or whatever the fuck's going on. And she just kind of cracks, and loses.
Correct.
Or whatever. That kind of thing would have fit in better with the first half of the movie.
Hell, it could have been like something even as subliminal as like a curse on the family that's been passed down from generation to generation, which causes, like things to happen that are just bad luck for the family. Something that, that was a little bit more grounded. It even has just a little bit of supernatural elements, but no, they fucking throw it all out like
a little more exposition thrown in before, we reach the end, at least. I mean, it was literally like, oh, by the way, here's the twist. Movie's over. And you're like, wait, whoa. There was so much like, and what's sad to me about it is the stuff you're talking about where it's grounded and we're following the family and like this tragedy happens and all that stuff. It was done so well. It was like, that's real life horror. That was what was done extremely well. And that sense of tension was just like, oh my God, this right here. And I like the soundtrack to this movie. I thought it was done well. But this right here, this stuff is, I mean, it works extremely well, Yeah. You're nothing but the stuff, and it's just so morbid and intense. And
I've heard that this is the guy's first like directorial debut. So for that, it's really well shot and well done. But I don't know if he did the writing or who did, but again, the movie is like the first half of the movie's excellent, and then the third of it is like, okay, that's interesting and all right, and then the last like 10-15 minutes you're just like, is this what's happening? So yeah, it's weird for me. I do want to watch it again, knowing the plot now and knowing everything, and just kind of taking it in again and seeing my thoughts, because maybe I'll enjoy it more on a second viewing now that my expectations are kind of grounded, and I'm not, the unknown is known now, so I can kind of I know what I'm getting into, and maybe I'll appreciate it more. As a movie and how it was made, I really like it, and the acting for Toni Collette is just totally worth the price of the ticket. But it just, don't expect to be blown away from a plot at all. And I'm sorry, I almost laughed in the theater when you see this thing fly across the screen, and you know what I'm talking about. I was like, what the fuck?
Cracking up. Yeah, I was like,
is this Peter Pan?
Exactly. So it was.
That's the best way to put it. Is this fucking Peter Pan? Did somebody just sprinkle pixie dust?
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah. But anyway, so the thing to take away from this is you and I, we like the movie.
Yes.
But we hate the ending. That's
correct.
So people listening, they go, oh, it was a good movie. We agree with you. We thought it was a really good movie. But we were just disappointed the way things went, and there was so much potential for. And I know people listen and go like, "Well, the suggestions you guys came up with aren't much better." Okay, fine, but you know what? I think honestly, I'm dead serious when I think it would have worked a lot better our way. So sorry, this is how I feel.
Again, if you're, I just want to say, if you're going to build a movie around the idea that things are scary that you cannot see or that are in your mind, and then you go against your own rule or your own style of that thought process and just explain everything and get crazy with it. It's kind of like a bait and switch. So
Yeah. So anyway, it's that time. Oh man, I'm talked out. What'd you learn this week, Justin? Anything?
I learned that E3 can still be a fun experience, even if it doesn't have a ton of surprises, because every year we get more and more leaks.
Yeah.
That's the internet, and people actively go looking for leaks now. And
Walmart Canada.
Yeah, Walmart Canada, you're the best. And I learned that a movie can be really good, but still have a shitty ending and still be appreciated. So,
What's interesting is I think this is basically the reverse BioShock Infinite, where the vast majority of the movie was great, and then the ending, to us anyway, was just not great. So in my mind, when I left the theater, I was like down on the movie. I was like, oh man, that was just like, I was just not happy with it. And opposite, when I played BioShock Infinite, I didn't really care for the game, but the ending, I was like, oh, that was great. And then I remember the game getting a lot of praise, and then Hereditary is also getting a lot of praise, but I didn't like Hereditary after I saw it. So it's weird how an ending can completely taint your opinion or change your opinion of the whole.
Yeah.
Even though it's just a tiny bit of a whole. So I think that it's because it's the last thing you saw, it's the most vivid thing in your mind because it's the most recent thing you encountered with it. So I think endings are super important. No matter what it is, you have to finish strong. And I think that's, that goes for anything in life, but especially in something creative like a movie or a game, an ending can make or break your product. So be especially careful and mindful of what you're doing because it's the last thing people remember. And we're at the end of this podcast. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Thank you for joining us this week, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Find our show online, everywhere.com/DNJ Push Buttons. You can find me online at It's Don Allen on Twitter. Justin, what's your name this week?
What's funny? It's /_JPC.
So tweet us, follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to mine. It's F'd Up TV, FDUP TV. Just search DNJ Push Buttons or Don and Justin Push Buttons. You'll find me. Subscribe to Justin. He does all the game reviews and useful stuff. I just kind of post random pish posh when I'm doing stuff when I'm bored. Anyway, that's it for us this week. I'm done. You done? We're out.
Yeah, we're out. Later.
Yep. Take care of yourselves and that special extra someone known as each other. Goodbye.
How could you love it?
Cool. We're done. All right.
That's like one of the first times I think we've agreed on a movie.
Well, I mean, it's not the first time I've heard the same opinion of a movie like that. But yeah, man, that ending is
I mean,
one of the most important things you can do, and I just think
it blew me away because I even still I don't hear people complaining about the ending, and I'm like, are you for real?
I mean, maybe they just don't care, but I question their taste.
It was just such a stark contrast when she's flying around through the air like Peter Pan, and then her body, which doesn't have a head, is floating up into the fucking thing. I was just like, what the fuck? like literally, if I'm remembering correctly, the last scene you see of Toni Collette is when she throws the fucking book in the fire, and suddenly her husband catches fire, and she's crying and screaming and seeing her husband on fire in front of her, and then that's it. Then you just see her fucking floating around like Peter Pan and doing the whole fucking exercise.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah, you're right. That was the last. Like she's not in the movie after that. She's
not the same character at that point. She's possessed.
How did she end up in his room? First of all, she was on the other side of the house, and then why
is she possessed?
And I have no idea.
Like, why is she possessed? I didn't understand that. Did the spirit go in her? I didn't really get that either. I was like,
I'm guessing it was the book had something to do with, like, she conjured a spirit, and it wasn't her daughter, And the book, her daughter's little scratch pad or whatever, sketch pad, was the thing that basically, like, I don't know, not held her spirit, but like was the barrier, you know? And as soon as that barrier was broken because the dude threw it in the fire, the ghost was fully capable of possessing her for whatever reason.
Well, see, that's the thing too.
Why did it catch on fire?
So what I was under the assumption though is that I was under the assumption that her daughter was possessed with this demon thing, and this evil spirit, and from the grandma, because the grandma didn't know about the son at the early age and couldn't do whatever ritual it was to him because they kept her away. So when the daughter came, she got all into her shit, did whatever she did to move this spirit to her daughter. And that's why her daughter, if you remember, there's a scene where she sees that light stuff, that weird light stuff.
Yeah.
And then later, after she dies, the son sees it. You know, so I feel like at that point, the son, they're trying to get in the son or something, because it's something to do with that spirit. And I think, you know, it's like passing down from their line, and it needs to get back into a boy instead of a girl. So again, I have to watch it again, but that's kind of like what I'm getting. Like what
when she uncovers all that stuff about King, whatever his name is,
yeah,
and it says he needs a male host or something, and I was like, okay, you showed me that for a second and a half. I was supposed to read it all, but I mean, the main thing to me was, I don't know, man. It was just I didn't care at that point. I was just like, I didn't care about the supernatural stuff because it didn't really fit with the rest of the movie. It was just
it just comes out of nowhere, you know, and you're just like, oh,
like we're supposed to believe that this woman was, you know, she was very casually outside that grocery or the art store or whatever, and like putting stuff in her car, and then Toni Collette walks by and like happens to see her because she's at the right place at the right time, when this woman like had planned that entire interaction in order to get her back to her place to show her the supernatural thing. The real
remember, that's the same lady that was at the meetings.
No, I know, but I'm like, she planned this like impromptu meeting, like to bump into Toni Collette out in public. You know what I mean? Like I hate when movies do stuff like that, man. When they're like, they make it look all casual, like, you know, like she had no intention of bumping into her that day. When like that's the whole reason she went there, was to bump into Toni Collette, tell her about this seance thing, get her back to her place, and show her this ritual. You know, it was the whole reason she was at the store. And I can't stand stuff like that. It was another movie that did that recently. Oh, it was Star Wars, the most recent, Last Jedi, where they're sitting there and like the whole thing with Laura Dern's character. I don't even know her character's name, but you know what I'm talking about. Where she's sitting there and she's like refusing to tell Poe about her plan. He's like, tell us you got a plan. Tell me you got a plan. And if she just gone like, I have a plan, don't worry, he'd have been like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And like that entire mutiny stupid, you know, thing would have been avoided. But it had to play out the way it did because of the movie. And it just, and I'm like, come on, man. There's no way she would sit there and go like, I'm not telling you anything. Because we wouldn't think she's corrupt and evil, and we wouldn't think he needs to mutiny her and blah, blah, blah. You know, that kind of stuff. I don't like when movies do that kind of like, you know, forced thinking on you. Like just, oh. Anyway, I think it needs to be remade. Hopefully Capcom will get their hands on it. Hereditary 2. What will Hereditary 2 be called? Hereditarier?
Hereditaries.
Yeah, man. So the Halloween reboot is doing that weird thing where, did you know it was written by Danny McBride?
Yeah.
I was like, what? That Danny McBride?
When I first heard about that, when they first announced it and they had him, it was him and somebody else. I was like, oh my God, Danny McBride's working on this. I was like, oh God, I don't know how this is going to go.
I know. Well, apparently John Carpenter directed this thing. If you read the interviews with Danny McBride and his pals there, who actually did they get their credit for directing it, but apparently John Carpenter was like all over them while they were making the movie. I mean, he was basically directing scenes with them in charge of the shoot. So like, you know, they would shoot something and then he would be like, I don't know, and they'd be like, okay, let's change it, And then, so he directed this thing. So basically, just kind of like through them, So anyway, I couldn't imagine working like that. It would drive me nuts. Just to be honest, and to have some guy looking over your shoulder the entire time, going like, "Oh, I don't think that's the right to it." What?
Yeah.
Dude.
I was gonna say, you know what I forgot to mention too? There's way too much naked old man dick in that movie.
It was funny because that was another thing that the kids were laughing at in my theater, were the naked people. Oh, why? Were they people or were they look? I think they were just like Satan worshippers, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Why were they naked in the attic? Why?
Yeah.
How'd they get up there? How did they get out in the woods? Why were they there? I don't understand any of that stuff. It's just, it was supposed to just be weird and scary, I guess, but it was done poorly. Anyway, it's his first movie, so hats off to him regardless, but still,
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway. All right, man. Well, that was a good episode. I think that went well, and I guess we'll figure out what we're gonna do for the next one since.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I don't know. I was gonna say because next Thursday I'm working, but then so Monday, Tuesday, Friday, or Monday, Tuesday would probably be the better days. Just let me know.
I'll figure it out. If not, we can skip a week and then we'll definitely hit back
next week. It'd be 2 weeks.
No. I mean, like maybe even if since the recording would be earlier next week, if we could either skip a week or just go to the next week. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll think about it.
Okay. And the other option is we may not have to put it off because I get home at like 11:30, and that's typically when we record. But we could start like 15 minutes later. But I would I would immediately be getting home and jumping on and podcasting.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, we can consider that too. So
that's an option.
Okay. Well, I'll talk to you about it, and we'll see how you're feeling that day. Next Wednesday, and we'll go from there. All right, man.
Talk to you later.
Later, bro. Later, bro.
Bro.